Imagine working 60-hour weeks, busting your back in a warehouse while your managers bark orders from their BMWs, only to realize you're being robbed of your overtime pay. Most people would stay silent out of fear. But one warehouse worker decided enough was enough, and what happened next cost the company thousands, their reputation, and even left a silver BMW sitting helpless with a flat tire. If you've ever been underpaid, disrespected, or treated like you're disposable at work, smash that like button. And stick around until the end, because this revenge isn't just sweet, it's legal, calculated, and incredibly satisfying. I worked warehouse and delivery for a small retail chain. From the outside, it looked respectable. Inside, it was a different story. The corporate culture was pure trickle-down abuse. Managers got screamed at by their bosses, then passed that same venom down to us. I'd show up at dawn, steel-toed boots hitting the concrete floor still slick with last night's grime. The smell of cardboard, diesel, and stale coffee hung heavy in the air. You didn't clock in so much as brace yourself. They paid us about 25 cents over minimum wage. 25 cents. Meanwhile, the bosses drove BMWs and Mercedes, and the big boss lounged in an $8 million mansion. Every morning was a parade of luxury cars past our loading dock, their tires crunching over the gravel we couldn't even get fixed. Our store was the freight hub for 4 other stores. That meant we saw all the drivers, guys hustling just like us but from different locations. Over time, a little community formed out back at the loading dock. Smoke breaks, swap sandwiches, quick jokes. The kind of camaraderie you build when management's the enemy. One day I was sitting with 2 drivers from another store, Buddy and his partner. Buddy mentioned he and his partner were pulling over 60 hours a week. I said, half joking, "Man, you must be raking it in with that overtime." He looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "No," he said. "We don't get overtime. We just get our regular hourly rate." I frowned. "Did you sign an averaging agreement?" He shook his head. "What's that?" He pulled out his pay stub. There it was. Straight time. No overtime. Months of it. His partner came back and confirmed the same. They'd even asked their manager and been told. That's just how it works. I felt my stomach twist. This wasn't just shady, it was illegal. I told them so. Urged them to go to labor relations. But they hesitated. "We'll get fired," Buddy muttered. And in that moment, I recognized the fear. The same fear that kept us all quiet. So I dropped it. For then. Months passed. Boxes stacked higher. Paychecks stayed the same. Every time I saw those bosses cruise past in their imported cars, my anger simmered. Then one afternoon, Buddy's partner announced he and his girlfriend were moving back east. He was giving notice. That was it. His last week. Nothing left to lose. I leaned in and said, "File the complaint. You've got nothing to lose now." He looked at me. Looked at his stub. And nodded. I didn't know exactly what would happen. But I knew something was coming. A few weeks later I rolled into work and immediately noticed the expensive boss cars jammed along the loading dock. Black paint, silver rims, shining like predators' eyes. My workmate said, "Something big's going down." All the managers were upstairs in a closed door meeting with a bunch of people in suits. Labor relations, I guessed. We wandered up, acting casual, and peeked in. The tension in that room was thick as diesel fumes. Papers stacked. Voices raised. Our bookkeeper, a quiet Chinese immigrant who kept his head down and did his job, was sitting stiffly in a chair. The bosses were circling him like sharks, blaming him for screwing up payroll. "He doesn't speak English well," one manager said, voice dripping with fake concern. "He must have misunderstood." But the bookkeeper wasn't the helpless scapegoat they thought. He reached calmly into his bag and pulled out a folder. Inside were records, emails, notes, logs, documenting exactly what they had ordered him to do. Warnings he had sent about the illegality. Their replies telling him to shut up and do it. He slid the folder across the table. Their faces went pale. And then, with perfect composure, he stood, handed over his resignation, and walked out. I could have cheered right there. The complaint had triggered an investigation. The evidence nailed them. Within weeks, Buddy showed up at our dock again, with a new partner, grinning like a man who'd just hit the jackpot. He held up his pay stub, 15 paychecks worth of overtime back pay. On top of that, the company had been slapped with a hefty fine. Every box I lifted that day felt lighter. Justice has a way of making your muscles stronger. And then came the cherry on top. The company's second-in-command had parked his silver BMW right on the loading dock. When he came back out, one tire was hissing flat from a nail. He popped his trunk and waved me over. "Change that for me," he barked. I looked at him. The man whose policies had stolen thousands from workers like me. The man now standing helpless beside his deflating status symbol. "Sorry," I said evenly. "That's not my job. And if I hurt myself, my compensation claim would be denied." He blinked, caught off guard. As he stomped back inside to call a tow truck, I stood on the loading dock and gazed at the scene. The luxury cars, the frantic suits, the fallout of their own greed, and my heart was glad. Sensory and internal details, woven in. The clatter of pallets echoing like thunder as we whispered about overtime theft. The chemical tang of ink from pay stubs. My heartbeat pounding when I told Buddy to file the complaint. The electric hush in the office as the bookkeeper dropped his folder of evidence. The hiss of air leaving that BMW's tire like the last gasp of corporate arrogance. Dialogue enhancement, examples. "Buddy, we just get straight pay." "Me, that's illegal. You've got to report it." "Manager, change that tire for me." Me calmly. "Sorry. Not my job." "Bookkeeper, you told me to do this. I warned you. These are your orders." As the tow truck hauled away the silver BMW, I realized the symbolism. For years they'd rolled over us, secure in their power. Now they were the ones stuck on the side of the road. The overtime back pay, the fines, the public embarrassment, it was more than money. It was proof that even small acts of courage can topple a corrupt system. Here's the thing about greedy bosses: they think fear keeps workers silent forever. But silence breaks. And when it does, the truth can hit harder than any strike. Watching justice roll out that day reminded me, sometimes karma needs a little push. If you've ever been underpaid or bullied at work, tell me in the comments, what would your ultimate revenge look like? Hit that like button if this story gave you hope. And subscribe for more real-life revenge stories that prove you don't have to stay silent forever.